Okay, hello and welcome to Video Journalism. Today we're going to be talking about editing. That's editing our whole program together in a non-linear editing software program. What we mean by non-linear is that you can actually cut and put all the pieces together in a non-linear progression. That means it doesn't have to go from start to finish. You can jump around and put things in wherever you like. So it's not linear, it's non-linear. And we're going to talk about putting together a paper edit to start with, how the story is constructed, what type of editing programs we can use, and I'll talk about the software pros and cons, and I'll also show you some tutorials about it as well. And the audio and voiceovers, again, I'll link to some really good tutorials so you can watch them again and again and follow them properly. And also the same for creating titles and exporting the files so that you have an output for your story. Okay, so we'll start with the paper edit. As I've got up the top here, the paper edit template is available in the other resources folder, and we'll just go there for you and have a little look around and show you where it's all at. So just in our course, True Stories Video Journalism, if you go into other resources, and down here I've got the paper edit template. Now you'll notice it's exactly like the template I provided for you, so you could put down your deconstruction story for your first assignment. Now a script template is excellent because basically if you put down everything on paper, then you just follow that in your non-linear editing software program so that you can make it so much easier to edit. Okay, so I always do a paper edit first. Now just while we're here, I've also got this FCP set up so you don't lose files. Okay, so rather than jumping back to it, I'll just explain what this is now. So FCP is one of the non-linear editing programs called Final Cut Pro. Now, if you don't, and it's also Final Cut Pro X, which is the latest version. So if you don't follow my little guide here, you will get lost and you'll lose your files. And even the tutorials that I show you do not show you how to set this up properly, and you'll lose your files. So if we just click on it, how to set it up. Okay, I have written out a little tutorial for you that shows you exactly how to go through the process, okay, by choosing your files and setting them up to your own hard drive. Now, if you're ever going to use, if you're using your own computer, that's okay. But if you're not using your own computer, please use an external hard drive. Okay, you'll notice down here, I've got my own little external hard drive named Chris Mamo for me, and everything goes into that file, into that folder. Okay, the hard drive. If you don't do that and store it all into one section, you'll lose your footage and there'll be tears, I guarantee you. And it's already happened to one of my students in one of my other classes. So please follow this format when you're working with Final Cut Pro, because they've got a weird way of setting up their file system, and if you don't follow it, you can lose your footage. So most importantly, please use a hard drive if it's not your computer. So if you're using one at uni or a friend's one, always use your own little hard drive. Now, what type of hard drives do you need? Well, I recommend a 1 terabyte minimum. They're external hard drives and you can buy them from any electronics store. They're usually about $80 to about $120, and they're pretty good. Now, if you can't afford that just yet, you can use an SD card with at least 64 gigabyte space, or a USB stick with 64 gigabyte space. If you have anything smaller, it may not work as well. And if you're going to use a USB, hopefully it's a USB 3 and not a USB 2, because the transfer rate is too slow on the USB 2. You might have some problems there as well. Okay, so follow my little directions there, and that will help you in Final Cut Pro X. Okay. Now, before we go any further, so we're talking about the paper edit, but before we go any further, again, this course is really well designed, especially for online students, because the unit content has got heaps and heaps of good direction for you. Okay, so let's go to topic. I think we're up to 7, digital editing. Okay, so we're going to talk about all these things today. Our objectives of basically going from start to finish on having our footage, our voiceovers, our whole package together, which includes the vox pops, interview grabs, and pieces to camera, and we're going to put it all together. Okay. Now, if you click on here, you'll see that again, it's really well designed. Lots of good stuff, objectives, little short videos from experts in the field, our readings, our learning activities, working with a paper edit, okay, and all this sort of stuff helps you produce all your paper edit and then your final edit. Now, mastering your editing software, I'm going to talk a little bit about this, and I'm going to talk a little bit about which editing programs I use, putting together editing sequences, more video from experts, a few more readings, and a discussion topic as well. Okay. So let's go back to our little PowerPoint slide and we can see what we're going on. Okay, so the paper edit, as you can see, it's broken down and got the paragraphs down one side, the action, so we've got voiceovers, interviews, lots of voiceovers, interviews again, vox pops, pieces to camera, and the final sign off. Okay, now not every news story is exactly like that, but when you put yours together, if you follow this template, you should do well. Okay. Then we put the shot list together, what we've already filmed and what sort of script we have together. And now we just use this as our base to produce our story in our editing programs. Okay, so first do a paper edit. Please do not go and start using the editing software until you've put a paper edit together. Okay, so let's go to the next section. All right, now the story construction. Now, we've talked about how everything's been put together on our paper edit. Now, the story construction within a non-linear editing software is quite simple. Now, we're going to work on 3 basic principles. Okay, so video, audio track 1, audio track 2. So you can see that from Alison's book on page 196. And you can see there's narration, sound bites, narrations, pieces to camera going through there. And then what we're going to do here, if you look at this thing over here, we're going to use a primary storyline, which is in the old term using our A roll. Okay, primary storyline is using our A roll, which is basically telling the story there. Our B roll is overlay footage that adds to the story. Okay, and that can be the second video track. We can put the stuff on top of it. All right. So if you have a look at Alison's book, it'll give you a little bit more information on that as well. So these are the main editing programs. And as I mentioned before, Final Cut Pro X, setting up the library is very important in Final Cut Pro X. And find my directions in the other resources folders, okay? Please do it. Now, Adobe Premiere Pro is what I use mainly now because Final Cut Pro X has this thing called a magnetic timeline, which almost makes it a linear program rather than a non-linear program, because what the magnetic timeline does, it drags all the footage into the timeline in a linear fashion, where Adobe Premiere Pro lets you put the footage wherever you like. And I learnt on a program where I could do that to start with, and so I'm continuing that way because I find it easier to work with. That's how I like to work. I like to be completely non-linear, so I can do the end first and the middle second, and then the end. So I quite like that. But I'm noticing a lot more people are enjoying the magnetic timeline where it's sequential and you can actually just build a story from start to finish. And you can change it a bit. There are some tips and tricks, but they're probably not for you at this stage. You can learn how to do that later on. So Adobe Premiere Pro is also easier to set up. You just need to put one folder either on your hard drive or on your desktop if it's your own computer, and all the files just go into that one folder, and it's much easier to work with. There's lots of other programs as well. So the other popular software program is called Avid, and a lot of the high-end studios use Avid. But for us and in most prosumer and news outlets, you're probably using Adobe Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro X. There's also a free video editing list there for you as well, and I've hyperlinked. So I've hyperlinked everything in the orange, and the reason I've got 2 links for Adobe Premiere Pro is because there's two different versions that you can have a look at. Now, I've also got a free editing list there for you as well. So I might go through this one first because I know a lot of you don't have access to Final Cut Pro, which costs about $500 to buy. We do have it on the university computers, and you're all more than welcome to use it. Adobe Premiere Pro is on a subscription service, which costs about $30 a month for students, and non-students it's about $60 or $70 a month. Now you get the whole program, which includes all the design things like InDesign, Photoshop, After Effects, lots of cool stuff. And I've actually got a subscription for that as well, for a personal subscription. But again, the university has all that sort of stuff for you. Now, Avid, we don't have Avid. But if you've got an Avid program, that's fine. But free video editing list, this might suit a lot of people that don't have access to the university or don't want to pay for a Final Cut Pro or Adobe Premiere Pro subscription. Now, this is a pretty good list, and there's actually one program on there that one of my students highly recommends, and I'll just click on it for you, and it's called DaVinci Resolve. So this is 22 best free video editing software in 2019, and you can go through and read that and find out which one suits you the best. Okay, so you might have to subscribe to something, but Blender, I haven't heard much about it. And please, I don't know how to work a lot of these because I just haven't used them. I use the professional programs that you pay for, but apparently these all work, so you can test them out if you like. And I know Blender used to be a 3D animating software. Lightworks, I've never used Shortcut, don't know anything about it, but it looks like it's available. So I'm just going to go through to the one that I've been told about. Avid Emacs, I guess it's a version of Avid. But this is the one that I've been told is a pretty good system, but I've never used it yet, simply because I'm happy with Adobe Premiere Pro and Final Cut Pro X occasionally. Now, I use Final Cut Pro X when I'm compositing and I'm doing green screen stuff, but just clean cutting, I use Adobe Premiere Pro. So DaVinci Resolve, it's arguably the most advanced video editor on the list, but it might be a little bit complex for some people. Best for more advanced projects where you need to correct colors, because it used to be a color correcting software. But anyway, there's 22 that you can go through. The other thing is, if you have a Mac at home, iMovie is an excellent program to use, and it's similar to Final Cut Pro X, so you shouldn't have any problem there. So that's basically the free editing stuff, which is great. Okay, now if you want to go and learn a little bit of Avid, just go there because I've got the link there for you. Now, Final Cut Pro, I'm going to click on it, and if you're going to use this, I highly recommend watching this. It's only 6 minutes, okay, and it really helps you.
Welcome to our tour of Final Cut Pro 10.3. This free series of lessons will give you a jump start on the new features and how to use them.
In this first lesson, we'll begin by exploring the new user interface, so let's jump right in. The most obvious change in the new Final Cut Pro is the flat look of the UI that greatly reduces visual noise and clutter. Gone are the three-dimensional design elements of the previous versions that tended to focus your eyes away from your content.
Okay, so as you can see, it's actually a really, really good 6-minute program which gives you an idea of Final Cut Pro and the interface. And the other thing is that you can notice is that all the other software programs that I just showed you have got similar interfaces. So when I learned to edit, there was this thing called 3-point editing. So basically you used to have, in this window up here is your raw footage. You would put an in point and an out point on the thing that you would like, and then you'd put an in point here and just drag it and drop it in. Now, they all pretty much work the same way. Okay, so you can, non-linear editing software, you can pretty much do the same thing the whole way through. Okay, so Final Cut Pro, Adobe Premiere, and all the others have the same principles, maybe just slightly different interfaces. So depending on which program you want to use, just go ahead and watch the tutorials. Now we're not going to watch this, I'll let you watch it because it's just all it's going to do is take up time. There's heaps of other ones here if you want to do longer ones. Now, I recommend this one as well. it is a full class, and if you do this one, you'll become a Final Cut X Pro within no time. Okay, I know David Cox does a great job, and I highly recommend him for
Today, I have a 90-minute
more.
class to teach you everything you need to know about Final Cut Pro. Hey, everyone.
So he does a great job if you want to watch it, and if you want to become an editing pro, he does a really good job on this. Okay, and I give this to one of my other filmmaking classes because, as you can see here, I learned more from SCP from this video than I did from a 500-page tutorial I read on my iPad. Okay, so it is excellent, and the more you get to learn these sort of things, the better you become. And I actually started off as an editor. I learned all about film, and I ended up being a junior editor and spent most of my early career editing programs, and it's actually a really, really good way to understand all types of visual filmmaking and visual language, because the editor creates the final story. Okay, so let's go back to our PowerPoint slides. So there's two videos that you can do. Adobe Premiere, I'll just click on there for you so you can see them and talk a little bit about it. You'll see that slightly different interface.
Christian here for Chriscar Productions. Welcome to this tutorial. Today we learn Adobe Premiere Pro in exactly 20 minutes.
As you can see, similar interface as the others. He just zoomed in quickly there, but
so as you can see, there's a sequence playing a video in the background, and this is pretty much what we're going to be creating today.
Turn off
so
the
we're
ads.
Creating titles, we're creating a sequence where there's videos with transitions, cuts, there's audio coming up, fading into this tutorial.
Okay, I'm just going to go to the start there. So
hey, what's up, guys?
Okay, that interface, you can see it's very similar to Final Cut Pro. Now, the inbox is the media browsers just down here. You can switch all those around, but the basic principles are all the same. Okay, you got an inbox, you got a preview window, you got a play window, and a sequencing area where you drop all your files. So very similar process all the way around. Okay, and I've got another one there as well. Won't click on it because I don't want to bore you, but you can do that in your own time. Okay, and then the Avid one. Let's have a look at that. I can't remember looking at the Avid one.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Get Started
Let's
Fast
see
with
the
Avid's
interface.
Media Composer 7, presented by Avid Blogs. My name is Kevin P. McAuliffe, and I'm a 3-time North American ProMax award-winning editor and a Media Composer editor for over 15 years, as well as being one of the senior editors at MyJo in Toronto, and you can always find me in the Avid community forums in the Media Composer and Symphony Getting Started Fast forum. And in this
thanks, Kevin. Just show us your interface.
We're going to take you through everything you need to know to get started with Media Composer 7 as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Okay, let's get started. Let's Command and Tab into Avid's Media Composer, and we are greeted by the project selection window. Now there's a few important things we're going to want to note before we actually get in and start editing. The first thing right at the very top here is the user profile. Now you'll
it's a little bit
to save
I'm just trying to find
bins in your project.
All right.
Now for me, I normally have this set to be something low, somewhere around about 10 minutes. Obviously,
I'm just trying to find.
And I'm going to call one bin
slightly different, but same principles. Okay, so let's not worry about going through that anymore. Just turn that one off. Okay, so they're our main editing programs. They'll set you up with how to get started in editing your program. Now, what sort of audio? Again, Final Cut Pro X and Adobe Premiere Pro. I've put the links there for you to have a look at.
Your writing matters. Whether it's your final essay of the semester, a resume for your dream job.
We'll skip the ads. So this will go through the whole program with audio. Okay.
Up till now, we've gone over how to navigate in the Final Cut Pro 10 environment.
Okay, so one of the good things about this is this will show you how to record sound directly into Final Cut Pro if you want to do that for your voiceover. But I just recommend that the same way you do your interviews, so with a microphone and you're interviewing your talent, you can do your voiceover with the same process. So just pretend you're the one that's being interviewed and do your voiceover that way. That's the easiest way to do it. You can do it through Final Cut Pro, but I don't recommend you doing it. Well, it doesn't matter. You can do it either way if you want to do it that way. But I recommend just using the same microphone that you're doing your interviews till you do your voiceover. And then you've got it all in one sequence. And you don't have to bring it in. But this will show you how to construct audio through Final Cut Pro. Okay. Now, I've got another one there for you as well. Let's have a look. and in Adobe Premiere Pro, because of course, they're all different. Okay.
Hey everybody, this is Justin Cussman, and I'm here to show you kind of a quick tutorial in Adobe Premiere Pro for editing audio, which is a very simple thing to do. And again, I'm just going to go over the basics, not a lot of the in-depth stuff. So first things first, we're going to make a new project in Premiere. A couple things in Premiere when you are making a new project, always title your projects. So I'm going to call this audio.
Okay, so lots of good stuff. So that'll get you going. Again, titles and exporting, I've got more links for you as well. So Adobe Premiere Pro and Final Cut Pro X. Now again, I won't worry about showing you the list, that you can find them yourself, but I've put everything there for you so you can go through it. So
To add text.
nice and easy. Okay, so I've put all the important stuff for you on how to do everything. Whoops. And how to export your files as well. Okay, for Final Cut Pro X, there's the link for you as well.
If you write anything on your computer, you need to get Grammarly.
I write pretty much all day, every day.
Okay, let's titles and graphics. Okay. So that's all we're doing today. So if you go through all that stuff, you should have no problem. But please contact me if you have any problems, especially maybe exporting your program. There's a couple of ways you can do it. And if you go through your tutorials, it'll show you how to do that as well. And I'll see you guys next week. Thank you very much.